Welcome back to my show. I'm Laura, the Tempted Baker, and today I'm going to be making a simple apple spice cake. And we're going to add in some special ingredients that's going to elevate it to the next level. If you're wondering what a spice cake is, it's basically what you would think of as a carrot cake, minus the carrots, of course. Extras that we'll be adding to this vanilla box mix include homemade buttermilk, our apples that we're going to cook prior to putting in, some cinnamon and cloves, and high quality vanilla extract. I'm also going to show you a couple simple techniques that I'm going to use within this recipe. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Also hit that like and the notification bell so I can let you know when the next cake is coming out. There are many other types of apples that you can use for baking, but for this recipe, again, we're going to stick with the Granny Smith for that texture and that tang. I'm betting at this point in your life, you have probably cored an apple. I'm going to just show you my personal technique for coring an apple. These apples will also be peeled prior to cooking them on the stove top to get them ready for our cake. For this recipe, this is what we want, okay? So I've got them peeled, okay? And I like to use a paring knife, and my preferred method of peeling an apple is tedious. Peeling apples sucks. I don't really enjoy it much, but I hold my paring knife in one hand and I'm going to turn my apple with the other one. That's also going to prevent me from cutting myself. So just kind of dig in, and you want that layer to be super thin. Do you see how thin that is? That's super thin. Sorry if my light's not getting that. So I'm just going to turn my apple and just keep that same thinness. My concentration face is very similar to my resting bitch face, so I apologize if I look like I'm really concentrating. But anyways, so that is my method, and you're going to peel about 3 to 4 apples. Depends on how many you want in your recipe. This is for a friend of mine at work, so I'm not quite sure what her apple preference ratio is to cake, so we'll just do 3 apples at this time. After that, I have cut them in half so that I can expose the middle core. I'm going to take a spoon of some kind. This is going to help me dig out that core. There's also lots of neat gadgets out there, like coring gadgets that you can buy. I find that most of them are very useful and they're sharp, but sometimes they take more time to use and clean than they do just to grab something simple like these. These are from Williams-Sonoma. This has lasted me over 12 years, so keep that in mind when you're picking utensils. I like things that last. So right here we're going to be coring this apple, and you're just going to dig in with it. So you beginners out there, here goes my concentration face, and you're just going to turn it with the apple and just dig that core out. Okay, so now I have a nicely cored apple. Awesome, huh? So try that method and you'll have your apples cored. Now you can take your paring knife and you can cut out in a triangle like that. Okay, you can cut your triangle out on both ends. Don't leave anything that's going to be not pleasant to chew on. So there is our cored and peeled apple. I'm also going to add in some lemon juice, some fresh lemon juice, and this does 2 things. It brightens up the flavor of your apple mixture, and it highlights the flavor of your apples. You also want to make sure you're chopping your apples up. You can do bigger pieces, but it really depends on when you bite into your cake, how you want that texture to feel in your mouth. And a cut up apple goes a lot farther within your recipe. So the smaller bite-sized pieces are probably going to be a better fit for this cake. Again, we are wanting to soften these apples, and that means we're going to have to cook it for at least 15 minutes. The 15 minutes, and I got this from Alton Brown when he talks about his homemade cranberry recipe, and I watched this years ago, so if he's changed it, I apologize. But in order to get that pectin released from the cell walls of this apple, we're going to need to at least cook it for about 15 minutes. And that pectin is a stabilizer to that cell wall and helps with the growth and expansion of the plant and that kind of thing. It's a polysaccharide, in case you didn't know. Pretty cool. So that's our goal here, is to draw out some of the moisture and break down the protective layer of that cell of the apple. Cool. Last but not least, we are going to zest an orange. And I I don't want the white part under it. So when you're zesting something, it's easy to over zest and get a lot of that white bitter rind that's underneath it. And that's not good eats, right? Alton Brown, that's not good eats. So we want to zest this and just get that tangy, oily outside off, okay? I love this zester. This one I don't rip my knuckles on. When you zest something, you want it to be very small. You don't want large chunks of zest. So this is my preferred tool for zesting. It's got a nice grip handle on it. I don't know if you can see this brand, but I have preferred this one over most that I've bought. I'm sure there are great ones out there. If anybody wants to send me one, I'll be more than happy to use it in my show. So let's get zesting. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to drop my zest on the ground just so I can show you what it's like to zest something. And hopefully you can see it. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to hold it up. Can you see it? Okay, and then there's some small pieces on there. Ooh, there's a good picture. I'm also going to show you, see how I've just barely gotten through to that layer, and I don't want the white stuff underneath. That's bitter. Another good thing to use the orange zest for is your frosting. So if you decide to make a cream cheese frosting, or really any vanilla frosting with this cake, you can put the zest in your frosting. Williams-Sonoma has a cream cheese frosting that they put orange juice and orange zest in, and it's fantastic. I've used it many times. Now that we have all of our ingredients assembled, we are going to start building this cake. I have here cinnamon and cloves. You can also use a pumpkin pie spice. I don't use pumpkin pie spice for two reasons. One, I don't know how long all of those spices have been married together and they can lose a lot of their intensity. And two, I like my ratios to be a little different than what is in those spices. Here is our orange zest that we carefully zested, and our buttermilk. I'm going to put that in. All these ingredients will be in the descriptions below. Our oil, our vanilla, and our eggs. I'm going to bring those together. Again, you can't really over mix this cake, but I don't recommend going more than 2 minutes. I want to mix this batter prior to putting the cooked apples in. That gives me an idea of how moist this batter already is, and if I need to omit some of the juice from the apples. And I'm going to fold those apples in. We don't want to really break down the apples too much. Once I'm done folding these apples in, I will place the batter in 2 8-inch prepared baking pans with a little bit of baking spray and a parchment round on the bottom. I'll also kind of tap these on the counter and get all the extra air out. Bake at 350 degrees for about 25-30 minutes. And that's it. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Feel free to leave me any questions in the comments section.